Hello and welcome to episode 29 of Illuminating Rounds. Martin, you're on the wrong side. We've switched over to Discord. I can't figure out how to get you over this side.
I see. Right, brilliant.
Yeah, you said you've been
perfectly. I always wanted to be on this side. This feels like the power position, really.
It is. It's like you're on the wrong side of the bed, as you put it, and I think that's it's a very nice way of putting it. How have you been?
Well, I've been pretty good. I've been back at work, back teaching, which has been very exciting because, of course, we've got all these new measures to protect ourselves from coronavirus. And within 3 days of all the schools opening, the school half a mile from my school had to shut for 3 days. 8 members of staff tested positive. So wow. I think it's going to be quite interesting over the next few weeks.
A crazy time for you guys, and you are the kind of the guinea pigs in a way of society coming back, aren't you? In a way,
I think that may be something in that. Yeah. I was feeling quite lucky in a way because we're the one sort of profession that got sent home on full pay and told to have a very long holiday, and now we're kind of the front line in that a little bit.
Yeah.
There's so we'll see how it works out.
You guys need danger money, I think, and also parents around the world are kind of sighing a sigh of relief that their kids have got something to do now all day. So
yeah, absolutely.
Good. Well, okay, we have to thank new patron who snuck in between us recording and me putting the video together. So they got a mention on the last week's end credits, but they didn't get a mention in person. So Mike, who goes by Robert Bedard, thank you very much for your patronage. I appreciate that. You're I think he's a starter kit player who watches us, and so good to hear we've got some starter kit players. Or at least
thank you very much. Yeah,
he wanted to
much appreciated
about the starter kit stuff. So I also wanted to thank our patrons as well, because I've been watching a lot of YouTube recently, as we all do when we're on lockdown. I noticed how many videos have adverts all the way through if you are not on an ad blocker. So, for example, if you're running an iPad or whatever. And it's infuriating. It's absolutely infuriating to have adverts all the way through an episode of something you're watching. So I don't want to ever put adverts in this one, and the reason we're not going to do that is because of the patrons. So again, if you're enjoying this stream advert free, feel free to say thanks to the patrons as well. But those guys are keeping this stream advert free, and I'm thankful. I'm sure other people are as well. So thank you.
And the ultimate real thing of not having the adverts is that you can, of course, watch Illuminating Rounds in the bath.
Which is exactly where I was yesterday, watching a video.
There's nothing worse when you've got wet hands and having to try to make it skip after 5 seconds.
Exactly. I don't know if you've got one of these. I bought a bath caddy, which sits across the bath. They're amazing. You can get one on eBay or Amazon for £25, £30 or something. And your iPad sits on it and your cup of tea sits there. I mean, there's nothing more British than a cup of tea in a bath.
I cannot imagine anything that I want more than I want one of these. Is there a danger element? You wouldn't want your laptop plugged in, would you?
You wouldn't, and yeah, that's true. I'm sure we shouldn't encourage any electronics near the bath. But I mean, danger is my middle name, and I'm happy to put
a cup of tea on your your children makers.
Yes. I think these days
dangerous things. We live life on the edge at Illuminating Rounds.
Let me tell you what is more dangerous. Is shouting out, "Can I have a refill of this cup of tea in the bath?" When Mrs. Davis is around running, doing all sorts of chores, and then I'm relaxing in the bath. What else have you been up to this week?
So I've had to miss a couple of sessions, but I have sort of been playing Martin Mayers. He's one of the tournament directors, as well as I'm standing for the Bounding First Fire tournament that takes place in Blackpool in the UK in November. And I've been playing some of the scenarios with him I think he wants to get a feel for them, check that they're that they're fun to play and that people will enjoy them. So we've kind of been doing that a little bit with Martin, but I haven't been playing much. The focus has definitely been back to work.
Now, we did play a little bit more of our Denant campaign, and we should mention that is currently paused. We are on the afternoon session, and we are in, I don't want to say counter hell, but we are in, I'm going to put a screenshot up right now of where we are on this. It's tough going from a counter management point of view, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm really starting to enjoy it a lot more than you, I think, because I mean, the hardest thing from my point of view as the German is management of this enormous force that's going to come on, and the next campaign game date, there's almost as much comes on. But it feels like it's going quite well, doesn't it? Because I'm kind of clearly across the river, getting ready to start building pontoon.
You got seven, was it 70 points worth of stuff coming on, which is, I think we talked about being roughly 70 squads or so. I mean, it's a huge number.
So 70 CPPs. Obviously, I've got to spend that on a variety of different things, but it's a lot of units, and they all come on in vehicles.
Right.
So they're working their way through the narrow village streets.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot of coordination to do, because say you want to build a ferry, you need to get the ferry in the right place with the right personnel that have the ability to sort of build it efficiently. Unload them in the right place off the trucks, and try not to be under too much fire.
Yeah.
You got to have all these sort of things in the right place.
So I've learned this. What I would give for OBA in this scenario right now. I don't have OBA in this one, and it would have been a godsend, because even just keeping your heads down whilst you're building bridges. What I've got coming on is 3 guys on horses, 3 Belgian squads charging on horses, and a bunch of H-35 tanks. Which
you got a lot of tanks.
Yeah, and those guys are coming on, and that's great. But I do feel a bit outgunned and a bit nervous about that. Yeah,
no, I've got to say, I think that it's very, very interesting, but it's quite time consuming, isn't it? We've struggled a little bit after the first campaign game date to keep pressing ahead with it. But
to give people an idea, it was taking us a whole morning to do, I think, one player turn maybe. It was
getting as bad as that.
I think it was. I mean, our mornings don't start, at the crack of dawn. But in terms of, it was. I think it must
have taken a couple of hours to do one of those sort of turn ones and things.
Yeah, it's been quite
stuff to move and stuff, isn't there?
It's been quite a bit. Yeah. But anyway. So what I did, I've been playing. I played Dave Marrakesh again from the Kansas City guys, who is the him and I. We play these games where either he thrashes me or I thrash him, and it was his turn to thrash me again with Strayers Strays, which is.
And you think about playing ASL as well? Is that right?
Maybe we're enjoying ourselves too much. But. I mean, here's the video of what happened. But basically, the Americans just charged down one flank. It's you're defending as the Germans the width of a board, and the Germans just come flying down. Sorry, the Americans come flying down as one just down one flank, and it's brutal. I mean, it's a tricky one, but hey, that's that. The other thing that I've been doing is a lot of work on the scenario archive, where we are providing now a REST API for applications to get data. So if there is an application that wants some data from the archive, it can poll and pull that data through. So for those of you who have played around with the Vassal template application, very soon there's going to be an ability for you to create your template files through pulling information through the scenario archive. So if you have seen those nice scenarios set up in Vassal with all the extra windows of information around victory conditions or whatever it might be, that kind of stuff is built generally with this Vassal template utility, and that's going to have a whole load of information pulled through. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let the Vassal template engine upload the setup files directly to the scenario archive. So what it should mean is it's a lot easier for people to upload their scenario setups, so you can download it and play a scenario with the scenario card, but effectively with Vassal all set up ready to go for you.
That'd be brilliant.
So Taka is doing an awful lot of work on that on his end. I've done my work on my side to kind of enable the data pulling and the uploading back up again. And so he's got some great ideas around screenshots and Vassal save files and template files. And obviously one of the things we're very keen to avoid is copyright issues and things like that. So we've got to strip a little bit of the information out of a scenario to make sure that you obviously still need the scenario card to be able to play the scenario effectively. But it should be a really good thing for everybody playing Vassal.
So is there going to be a problem when we get a new version of Vassal? Or
yeah, quite possibly. I mean, it depends on the compatibility, and that is one of the issues. Hopefully, if that happens, if the Vassal templating engine still works, potentially the Vassal template will load its own internal file, and we'll be able to create the Vassal file based on that template file.
Oh, that'd be brilliant.
And then we can save that again back up to the archive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. It's all work in progress at the moment, but that's the plan.
Yeah, fantastic.
Okay, we've got some tips from Toby. So here is Toby's top tips on attacking and how to win as the attacker. Take it away, Toby.
What I'm covering today is principles of attacking in ASL. And of course, it is true that there are few better things than demolishing an opponent when you're attacking in ASL. And regarding principles, I think I'm going to use the words of Genghis Khan as iterated by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the movie Conan the Barbarian. When Conan is asked, "Conan, what is the best thing in life?" He replies, "To crush your enemies, drive them before you, listen to the lamentations of their women." And indeed, the principles of attacking in ASL should be to crush your enemies and drive them before you. Listening to the lamentations of their women is purely optional. But how does one achieve that? Well, two ways, I think. First is to make your opponent more vulnerable. And the best two ways to do that are reduce his ability to skulk, and secondly to encircle him where you can. And you can best reduce his ability to skulk and encircle, to be honest with you, with armoured fighting vehicles. So generally, be aggressive with these. It's another reason why I advocate not prepping with armoured fighting vehicles, because they can react to opportunities. An enemy squad suddenly shoots and it cowers. Right, well, that's not firing anymore. So your tank can charge behind it, and in the advanced firing phase, you can encircle it, or indeed get into a position whereby when he tries to skulk, you can still put fire on it. So that's one thing, is make your opponent more vulnerable. And secondly, my good friend Peter Stroif said, I think, something along the lines of, in ASL, when your opponent's down, you do kick him, and you keep kicking him. And by that, what we mean is if you're lucky enough to break an opponent, then destroy him. I don't mean necessarily shoot again at an already broken unit. I mean, there are times when that's useful, but sometimes a nightmare scenario occurs where the enemy rolls a double one and battle hardens and produces a hero, and you can turn a winning position into a losing position. By far the best way of taking out broken units is to eliminate them for failure to rout, or force them to surrender. Both are pretty good options. And failure to rout, remember, during the rout phase, the enemy is not in control of his own units. He has some control, but if you place your units correctly, you can control where the enemy goes. So again, armoured fighting vehicles are superb at this. If they can get adjacent to an enemy, then you force them to rout from that position. And if you sensibly place other units around, you can make sure that any broken unit trying to rout from that position is unable to do so because they're moving towards other units. And you can indeed get multiple units being destroyed or surrendering. And that's what you should aim for, is utterly destroy enemy broken units. Do not allow them to route in the first place. And sure as hell they shouldn't be rallying. And of course, time those little shots to DM an enemy. If there's no leader around and it's not his turn coming up, there's no point putting a unit under DM. He's not going to go anywhere. You can't rally. If you do DM him, sometimes he can route back to a leader that he wasn't able to do before. So always, there's some players automatically think, oh, DM that enemy unit. Well, no, you don't have to all the time. You only have to DM it if it's about to rally in its next rally phase. So yeah, bear those principles in mind, really, and I hope that's useful.
Okay.
So that's excellent top tips from Toby there, and I'm a bit worried because obviously you're attacking me in this scenario, so I don't want you to get any good ideas just yet.
No, I don't think you need to worry. I'm very good at totally failing to apply anything that anybody ever tells me.
So talking of tips and nice opponents, which we haven't really done, but let's have a tenuous link. Our top 5 this week, Martin. What's our top 5? What are we doing?
Okay, so we decided that we would talk about the 5 characteristics of an opponent that make them an enjoyable or a good opponent to play. Somebody they want to play again and again and again.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Other than not being Dave, really.
Well, I've played more Martins than you've played Dave's, I think. So.
I can't even think how many games I've played with you.
All right, okay.
I'm going to read out my 5 in a minute, and I'm going to test you against them. I'm going to go, no, you don't do that one. No, not that one.
Okay, then. All right, well, what is your number 5?
Okay, number 5 is, so I can't put this succinctly, but I think when I play an opponent, I don't want somebody who's sloppy with rules. I want people who play the rules properly and that don't mind going into the rules and checking things out. But I also don't want somebody who's using perhaps their better knowledge of the rules than you to kind of get an unfair advantage. I think I want a player who works together to get the rules right.
Yep.
And this is a little bit personal coming off that, is that if I've just started prep fire and it's a big complicated scenario and I go, oh, I forgot to, roll to repair that light machine gun, that I kind of feel like that's the kind of thing I'd say, so yeah, go ahead, of course. Further into the turn, no, but some people will stick very tightly to that thing, and that's fine if that's how they want to play. I don't think that's wrong, but it's not my preferred way of holding people so tightly to the rules.
We have in the past, we have missed whole movement phases.
And done them at the end of the turn.
Just roll them back, just do them. It's all right, isn't it? And I don't think we're in the minority there. I don't think... Obviously, the question's going to come up.
Getaway.
Sorry?
Didn't we do that in Galician Getaway? I think we did.
We did. I don't think we're in the minority. And I mean, obviously, the question's going to come about tournament play and how strict you are. But I don't think you are an awful lot different in tournament play than that.
I would be exactly the same. I'd certainly allow reasonable.
And that's one of the advantages of losing your early rounds, is that you get to...
Well, I certainly get to do that. Certainly get to do that. I do think if it makes any kind of a difference, then no. I think that, most people, I think, generally speaking, I'm reasonably strict on things like the smoke has to be fired first and things like that. I mean, that's in the rules for a reason, isn't it?
Yep.
When it doesn't really make a difference, it's just an omission. I'm inclined, nearly always, to let people off.
Yeah, I agree. I would, and I'm sure people who have perhaps played me, and maybe I haven't let them do that, but I hope I would. But I like to think I'm the same thing as you. And the other thing is because you get yourself a little bit of leeway on the way back, don't you? That's the thing. I feel like I can ask you to, can I go back to my movement phase because I forgot after the route phase.
There is another side to this. I mean, a brilliant person to play, Trevor Edwards.
Yeah, who doesn't play anymore.
He doesn't anymore apparently. But when he did used to play, he was a stickler for those kinds of things. And as I say, it's not. I wouldn't. Me saying I have a preference wouldn't. It's not a criticism of somebody like Trevor, who I really enjoy playing and learned a lot from. The other thing is actually that when you're playing someone like Trevor, you're forced to be much more careful, play the game properly. So actually, from a point of view of becoming a better player, it's probably a benefit. But I suppose I enjoyed it being kind of more laid back, perhaps.
The thing about Trevor was he was also very strict on himself. So
Absolutely.
it was very much a case of, and I think I played him once, and I can't remember if he did this with me or he did this with you, but he kind of I think it was one of us, he gave, like, that's your freebie, that's your one-off, okay, I'll let you have it this time, but don't ask again kind of thing. I think that was with me, and that's fair enough as well.
Yeah.
I beat him in the most sleaziest way anyway, so I don't mind. I ended up voluntary routing off a
reaction.
But yeah, so mine was similar to yours. So I had having a similar skill level, but maybe just a little bit better, because I think if you are playing someone who's just a little bit better, not a lot better, the game's always close, but you genuinely feel like you've earned the win. So a kind of similar skill level, but not to take anything away from playing people who are less experienced. They're great as well, but I think in terms of your ideal opponent, regular opponent or whatever.
Yeah.
All right then. What's your number 4?
I'll let you down on that just a little bit, really. It's slightly better than you.
You make it up for all the rest.
So my number 4 then is taking dice in good part. Now I've got a number of role models for this. When I play indie, we laugh both together. We laugh at each other's bad dice, and the worse it gets, the more we laugh, and that's great. When I'm playing Martin Mayers, he laughs at my poor dice and calls me names and calls me a loser and all this kind of thing, and I'll do the same back. But it's in good part, and it's fun, and oddly, kind of rolling badly, even when it's outrageously bad luck and it's costing you the game, becomes a part of the fun of playing it, rather than, we're all guilty of, like taking things badly. I'm sure. I doubt there's an ASL player out there who hasn't been ungracious about it. But it's so much more enjoyable when you're with someone who's having some fun with the ups and downs of the game.
I completely agree, and it becomes, the game is not pressured. I've played games where I've had opponents who have been on the wrong side of the dice. I mean, that's no question, and they get a little bit upset, and it becomes a little bit unpleasant, because not only are you watching their dice roll for when they roll badly, but your own dice as well for rolling well, and you feel like it kind of hurts, doesn't it, both ways? It's I kind of feel like maybe this is just the way it appears, but once you start feeling negative about the dice and moaning about it, all it does, it's like self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? I mean, it's probably that you're just noticing the bad ones rather than noticing the good ones because of your mood. But it just goes from bad to worse. You're never going to roll double one after a big moan, are you? That's exactly right. I played a game, and I know I told you about this after I played it, but I played a game where I was rolling well, and there was no question. But my opponent, distinctly complained a few times about my dice rolls, and I had to point out that his dice rolls in the dice tower that was sitting next to my desk were actually lower than my. He might roll a 4 for my morale check. To give me a 2 morale check, I might roll a 5 and pass it. And he complained, and I'd be like, "Well, there's a 4 in your dice tower. You can't." But I'm sure that the fact that I'd passed 5 morale checks on the trot,
Yeah, and the thing is, sometimes you get a little bit of a moan about sort of rolling a 5 or something like that, which is by no means, an incredible, an incredible roll, is it? It's just, it's in there. It's one of the rolls.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So my number 4 is a little bit different to that, but it's good hospitality. So when I come to your house, and God, I can't wait again to be able to see those tears in person. But we have ice cream and apple pie, or we'll have a nice bit of dinner, and it's a pleasant experience. And I played Nick recently, and I was at his house, and Nick is a brilliant guy for coffee. Loves his coffee, and you revel in someone just looking after you a little bit, and it's very nice. I hope I did the same for you when you come over, but having some nice hospitality when you're playing an opponent is a very nice thing.
I remember making a big fire for us once. Do you remember playing in front of the fire?
You absolutely did, right? Okay, so
that was our most romantic match, I think.
we absolutely had an amazing time. Yeah, in the front of the fire. I do remember we might have had to change sides halfway through because our faces were getting a bit hot on one side. But yeah, absolutely.
I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, all right. You're number 3.
Number 3 is like a little amount of focus. I mean, we'll usually have a cup of coffee before, and of course we have breaks, and of course sometimes you end up talking about something else briefly. But it kind of bothers me if you're not reasonably focused on the game and there's sort of decent progress. So yeah, I think you were there to play. We should play, have a laugh, of course, and stuff. But yeah, I think that's an important quality.
No, I think that's absolutely right. And I think there's nothing worse than someone who, we've all been there in a tournament game, for example. And I'm sure we've just been as bad. We just don't notice it. But when someone is happy to talk to everybody who walks past the game.
Yeah.
Having focus in the game is actually quite nice. What's your view on phones next to a game? Are you okay with that? Are you?
Never occurred to me. It has never occurred to me that was a problem. But then I've never been sat with somebody who was like constantly getting calls. Sorry, right. I've got to take this. Do you know what I mean? Occasionally, people get a call and they feel they need to take it. That's fine. But it doesn't bother me. Does it bother you?
No, but I think I can imagine. I think it might grate a little bit, and I don't think I've had it either. But if someone was, distracted to the point of writing text messages and stuff like that in the middle of a game and things like that, but that hasn't happened yet. So.
I think at the end of the day, you're coming to play, and your phone's there if your kid's not well or something like that, and someone needs to get hold of you. Of course, But no, I don't mind people having their phone there, but I wouldn't expect them to be constantly on it. No.
Yeah. Okay, asking for help maybe with Toby on the back end. Okay, my number three was having some nice kit. So again, no problems against the guys that haven't got any kit or whatever, but you play some people who genuinely take good care of their kit, and every counter is the right shade of what color it should be. They have everything's laid out nicely. They may have put some overlays out with a bit of blue tack in, and they've all taken a bit of pride in their their kit. It's always nice to play someone who is a little bit fastidious about the whole experience. You're smiling as if you've never done this. Well, you do this as well. You're okay.
I kind of feel like that doesn't describe my kit.
No, you're okay. I have definitely played worse opponents than you by far. I mean, you're absolutely fine.
My Germans are all different shades.
Yeah, that's
true. They are everything from white to purple. It's. The Russians. I got all different sizes. Because my first Beyond Valor was the first edition, and they were all different sizes in there. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you get such beautiful ones since Starter Kit, really, isn't it, when they come up with the new kind of style, and they're beautiful. And one day, I'll tip them all out, and I will pick out all the nice ones for you, and I'll put them in a special little box. So whenever you play with the nice ones.
Well, finally, I didn't know how to tell you this. This is my love letter to you in open. So you can, I'm teasing. All right, okay. Number two.
Number two. So I got reliable. Now I'm not always reliable, but on the whole, I think it's kind of nice if you've got a game plan that someone sort of like shows up and that they're on time and I'd know maybe done some preparation if that's what they need to do or whatever it is. It's quite nice. It all goes smoothly, doesn't it, when people go to a little bit of effort to make sure that.
Now you've had, I don't know if you're going to remember what story I'm talking about here. You had an opponent who called you in the back of an ambulance because they couldn't play at the scheduled time.
Okay, right, yeah. So this is Mr. Bunce. Yeah. So Tim was supposed to play me on Sunday night.
Not
years ago.
Yeah.
This is a long time. I don't even know if Tim still plays. So I haven't been in touch with him for a long time. But he was going to play me Sunday night, and he had a stroke. It was serious, and he got an ambulance.
We shouldn't laugh.
And instead of ringing like his mum or his family or something like that, he rang me from the ambulance to tell me he wouldn't be able to make the game. Actually, I don't think Tim will. I mean, Tim was laughing about this too. Literally, it was totally unintelligible. It was literally like, and I was like, what the hell is this phone call? You know, it was serious as well. He was, you know, it took a long time to recover, but that was Tim. Absolutely didn't want to let his ASL player opponent down.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it? Incredible.
Yeah.
Now, it's an incredible story. Tim's a nice guy as well, so I hope he's still playing. All right, yeah, that's cool. I mean, this doesn't compare at all with that story or even that level. But it's having an opponent who has a scenario that they want to play for a particular reason, and they've actually done it. Now, you said that you're no good at this. I'm no good at this. Absolutely, I'll play anything. Awful. I don't care. But it's always great when an opponent says, "Hey, I want to play this scenario here. You know, can we play it for this reason or whatever?" You know, that takes a weight off of my, you know, kind of, okay, what are we going to play, or, you know, whatever. And I know there was a thread on Game Squad a little while ago about the idea of, you know, if you're not going to have a playlist at a tournament, you know, like for example an ASLOC where you are expected to pick your own scenarios kind of thing, you know, and it was almost bordering, some people felt that it was bordering on being a little bit rude if you didn't have a playlist of scenarios that you were willing to play. And I certainly didn't. I mean, I just will play anything, I don't mind, you know, just will play. But I do see the benefit of people having a genuine playlist, either in a folder that they're ready to play, or an idea of a scenario that they'd like to play, because it does take a little bit of the effort out of trying to find a scenario, and you know, that's no bad thing in a way, but it's nice to have.
I think you mentioned this word effort, and that's because I never know, and I find it quite difficult. So, like, we know we're going to play today, but if we were going to say, right, we don't know what we're going to play, I'd be quite happy for you to pick something, or even to do it random. For a while, for about a year, we played random scenarios.
And you know what? We are going to do that again. So there is a scenario. There's a feature on the scenario archive that lets two people or one person and their opponent pick a scenario based on your collection. So you can tick and say, okay, find something that both my opponent and I have, or either one of us has, and it will pick between, I think, 1 and 5 scenarios, and even pick the size as well. How about you and I do that for our next scenario?
Yeah,
we'll do that.
100%. I'll go for that.
Okay, all right. Now,
but the thing is, it's the reason it's difficult is because you don't really want to pick a dog. You don't want to meet. You know, we spend like 4 or 5 hours playing something, and then at the end of it, you go, "Oh my, I don't know why you picked that one. That was rubbish." You know, you don't want to be in that position. But the way to avoid that is to make some effort and think it through a little bit. And of course, we're both bone idle.
But I do maintain we played a scenario that we would have never have picked before on that, which was the one that we had to pick. It was basically a scenario that said, take this building or something and go spend 400 points, DYO points, on your force. And I can't remember, did you come in parachutes and I came in pass out? It was some bizarre...
I think the parachute one was a different one to the one you're talking about. But we did play a parachute one, which we would never... Which I'm not sure we never would have done, but we still wouldn't have got around to it yet if we didn't think of the parachute one. We played one that was... We also picked... But we did pick one where we had points to spend. Yeah. That's the only scenario, really, that I've ever played that uses that part of the rules.
That's right. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. Yeah.
And there were lots of scenarios we played that we would never have picked any of them, and I think we enjoyed playing all of them as far as I remember.
ASL, isn't it? It's bad ASL is bad ASL is still good ASL, isn't it? It's it's still a good time. That's the thing. All right, okay. So your number one. What's your number one?
So I think we got something very similar here, haven't we? Like so a good humoured opponent.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it is a game. I'm kind of serious about it. You're quite serious about it. But in terms of, I play it for enjoyment, and I play it to relax, and I play it to have fun. And it's always, it's very, very rare you meet an opponent who doesn't hit this criteria. Actually, just someone who's just fun to be with, who's nice to be with, who's pleasant.
Yeah.
Good people enjoying it. Yeah, I think that's
exactly. And I said exactly the same thing. I said laugh no matter what the result. That was to me. And it's summed up perfectly, and I didn't come up with this, but I think Nick said this to me. ASL is like a spectator sport. Or I think maybe Martin Vickard said that to me, and but someone said it's a spectator. It's not really you can think of it as one person against another, but it really is just watch what happens and just see the game. I like the idea of two guys against the rule book. That kind of a thing. It's not all personal. We're not going to be excited when we beat someone because they were not as good as us or whatever. That's not what
Yeah.
I sort of think is about.
It's not what it's about. So not what it's about for me. I think it's not about that for most players. I think some people, it is about playing a kind of an optimum or perfect game. I think some people get that out of it, and perhaps their sort of play style is a little bit more focused and serious, perhaps. But sometimes it's almost like a role play element, isn't it? Really, I'm going to be the Russians in this, and you're going to be the Germans, and this isn't real, and we're going to see what happens. I'm going to try and come up with a good plan, but either my incompetence or the dice might stop that happening. But that's great, still fun.
Okay, brilliant, and that's excellent. And talking of your incompetence and a plan, let's talk about the scenario we're going to play today. So it's from the Onslaught Torture. It's from both version 2 and version 1. You know it as Onslaught Torture number 13. I know it as Operation Bagration number 4, OB4. So it is motoring to
Mogilev.
You get the tricky ones to say. So you pick the scenario.
Yep.
Well done. You did a good job. I've set up. So I'm going to take you through my setup, and then we'll flick over and see what you've done for yours. Okay. So here comes my setup. Okay. So let's take a look at Onslaught Torture number 13, or Operation Bagration number 4, if you've got the original Onslaught Torture, the version 1. So this is a 1944 German versus Russian rush across the bridge, basically. So the Russians are going to come on with four tanks, some Su 76 and Su 85s, and they've got four trucks, bringing on 10 squads worth of assault engineers. And the Germans are tasked with stopping them getting over this river here. So obviously two crossing points that we've got to be focused on, and the Russians have to get 23 exit victory points, either this side of the river or off the board, and mobile vehicles will also count. So fairly easy to get those vehicles off if we don't have any luck destroying those guys. You can see that I've put the anti-aircraft gun right up front here. Obviously this will be hidden and these guys will all get concealed. But this is the upfront placement of the anti-aircraft gun, really looking for either a side or a rear shot would be the best opportunity really for him. So the to kill of 6 isn't going to damage the Su-85 at all, and he's going to really struggle against the Su-76s. So I mean, maybe he'll get a truck, but I mean, the plan is that if Martin comes heavily down the centre, which I don't expect him to do, by the way, I think he will hit one of the sides, and this side here on the right hand side looks fairly weak. So the concern is that's where he'll be coming. But obviously he's got to check all this grain out, and he's not going to be certain. The other thing is that it's a fairly wide berth to get across here. So if he does come this way, in theory, I'll have time to pull these Germans across. The plan for the Germans really is to try to fall back every hex, every turn. So we're going to be pulling back, and we're going to wait to see what Martin does. Hopefully he comes down the middle and pushes hard, and that's where we can catch him out. But let's see what happens. Okay, so that's my setup all ready to go. So Martin, do you want to take us through your complex and in-depth setup?
Okay, right. I didn't really have a clue what to do here, so I set up like this. I genuinely thought this looks quite difficult for the Russians. So all the infantry have got to come in as riders or passengers. So I've got the tanks in the front. They're going to head down the road, get into positions to protect the trucks, really, which are going to come down and unload the infantry, and then we're going to start fighting our way through the town.
Okay.
I can't say that I've thought any more detail about it than that. That's the plan.
That's fair enough. Okay, all right. So we're gonna check in at each end of each turn. So we will see you at the end of turn 1. So it's worth mentioning, I guess, just before we start, we're going to get Tom Rapetti to give us his neutral commentary as well. So Tom, over to you for your intro and then we'll do the turn 1, turn 2, etc. as we go through.
Hey everyone, Tom here again, and this week we're talking about motoring to Mogilev. I'm just going to look at the scenario card and then give a quick overview of what I see with Dave's defense. You know, looking at the card, even though the German force isn't fancy, I actually like the Germans in this one because the Russians have so much to do. They start here at the bottom of the screen, which is actually the eastern side of the map, and in 6 movement phases they have to cross this river and get about half of their force on the far side of the river, or off the board if they want, but I think the far side will do. That's a lot to do in 6 movement phases. And oh, by the way, their AFVs are kind of crappy. Here's the Su-85, and sure, it's got S7 smoke, but you'll notice the lack of a turret and lack of machine guns. And the Su-76, no turret, no machine guns, in fact no special ammo at all. That's tough. I expect Martin to be having to dip deep into his bag of tricks to get some use out of these guys. So, given all of that, I do like the Germans in this one, but I don't like Dave's defense. First off, I don't see there's enough that's up front. You know, the Russians are coming in from off-board here, and they have to enter on a very narrow front, and to me that means you really consider a strong up-front defense, and I'm just not seeing it here. I would love to put Resid in all the hexes like this. That would really hurt the Russians' ability to make much progress on turn 1, but you really can't put Resid there with the meager German forces that Dave's got up front. I know that would require pretty much all of his OB to be up front, but I really think the opportunity is there, and in fact he needs to take advantage of that because the Russians are so cramped when they come in off board. The second thing I don't like about Dave's defense is looking at the heights of these stacks. I don't see any leader-led machine gun fire lanes. In fact, you know, I don't expect this to be a, you know, the medium with an 8-1. That's really not very strong in this scenario. But I think the Germans need to lay leader-led fire lanes in this scenario in order to maximize their strength, and I'm just not seeing it here. So that's strike 2. Strike 3 is that it doesn't look like there's anybody positioned to run across to the western side of the river on turn 1. And yeah, to me, it's a bridge crossing scenario, and you need to have some of your defenders on the far side of the bridge. I'm not, you know, he may do that, but I'm not seeing it in his setup. So for all those reasons, I think Dave has kind of taken the German advantages and nullified them. So going to be interesting to see whether Martin can take advantage of what's going on here. Let's take a look.
Okay, Martin, well, turn 1 over.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like my finest hour.
You've had better first turns.
I was totally fixed on my mind that gun would be right at the back, maybe even the other side of the river.
Yep.
And your gun is right at the front,
Yep. Yep.
Really. So that was the first thing that went wrong, I guess.
Then what went wrong after that?
I malfunctioned the main armament.
Yep.
And this is on one of those little sort of tankette things,
Yep.
so it's only got a main armament.
Yep.
Now I know the vehicle has got points, so it's worth points to get off, but I sort of thought I need a weapon. I need some weapons, so I'm going to try and repair it. And of course, I rolled a 6 on the repair roll, so that's been recalled.
Right.
So, in addition to that, you not crazily unlikely, you got a Panzerfaust, destroyed one of the tanks that I'd kind of led with to sort of, kind of open up the defence a little bit.
Yep.
So I lost a tank there. So essentially, I'm 2 tanks down.
You're a truck, immobilised truck as well. So the
immobilised truck. I've got an immobile truck, a broken squad, and I did have a broken leader, didn't I? But he came back really quickly.
Yep.
On the other side of the score, though, to be fair, I have exposed a dummy.
and I killed my own half squad.
And you killed a half squad by rolling a 1-1 on the Panzerfaust.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's
swings and roundabouts.
Not a great start. I'd feel better if I knew how I was going to make progress from here. But...
Right. Well, I guess it's a good spot to find out what Tom thinks.
All right, before we get started with turn 1 analysis, time to introduce a technical innovation, the Tuomo-ometer. Every time you make a good move, the dial moves 1 in your favor. If either player gets to +3 on their side, they've basically won the game. Dave's setup was kind of suboptimal, so we're going to start with Martin +1. Alright, here we are in the middle of Russian turn 1, and already there's things I'm unhappy with. This move by the Su-85 is just way too aggressive. He's really asking for a Panzerfaust in final fire, and indeed that's what he gets. The thing that I noticed here with this Su-76, he's spent 12.5 MP to get to this point, and what Martin does is take him here and keep him in motion. But what I would have loved to see instead is bypass here for 14.5, and then enter K3 with the tank for 15.5, cause the squad to bail out there, and if they pass that morale check, then in the advanced phase, boom, go in for close combat where they'll have the advantage against that squad. To me, that would have been a more interesting, aggressive move to take. Here's where we are at the end of Russian turn 1, and that is a lot of sitting ducks. And indeed, when Dave's AA gun pops up and brings them in and hits sights, that's enough to make the Tuomo-ometer jump one more in Dave's favor. And oh yeah, another one for that Su-85. Last but not least, trying to repair the broken MA on that Su-76 was a risk that Martin just couldn't afford to take. Yeah, that guy really is kind of sad, but he still has armor, so he can still triple point blank fire freeze people, and he can throw crew smoke, and Martin just couldn't afford to lose that tank, so yep, I'm going to swing it one more in Dave's favor.
Okay, Martin, so end of turn 2. That went better for you.
It was better. It was better, definitely. Yeah. So got all the infantry off the trucks, really, didn't I? In the face of the anti-aircraft gun that was going to sort of mangle them all up. Managed to get into close combat with the half squad that used to be a squad that blew up the tank with the Panzerfaust. Didn't I? Got into.
You went berserk, didn't you?
Went berserk, that's right. But I'd already put a tank in bypass, which was a bit of a waste, really. So I kind of double. If I'd known I was going to go berserk, I wouldn't need to do that.
Yeah.
But it ended up it was an overwhelming close combat, wasn't it? Because in the end, I had 3 squads in there and a leader.
There was a point where we talked about whether or not you should have advanced in there because you had a vehicle and a berserk squad. But I was pinned in there. You got the ambush anyway.
Yeah. In fact, I think you had a benefit of 1, didn't you?
That's right.
In the end, you had the leader and stuff like that. As it happened, you rolled a 6 and I rolled a 1. So, but it would have been kind of sensible maybe not to have moved anything in because I had a 6-2-8 in there, so that was been a 3-1. He could have done it on his own, even ambush perhaps. Yeah, but it worked out well, and getting the ambush meant I was able to move a little bit further. And then in your turn, so all that was really left of that sort of little defence at the crossroads, if you like, was the anti-aircraft gun.
Yeah,
and I kind of feel like I threw everything at that and didn't have a result.
Right.
It is shrouded in smoke. It is isolated. I mean, they're clearly in trouble.
Yeah.
And I learned a rule, which you knew.
Go on.
Which was the I wanted to do an encircling shot, but I didn't take the encircling shot consecutively. I'd taken a few other shots, and you very gracefully said I could take it as an encircling shot, but I turned that down because I had a different plan for that unit.
Right.
The only reason I thought, I better go for the encircling shot was because everything else had failed to break it. I'd kind of hoped that something else would break it and I'd get a free shot with the other squad. So I thought it'd be kind of cheating, really, for me to accept your kind offer.
I think those guys are in trouble regardless. So we should mention that the blaze happened because there was gusts. You got some gusts out. So the terrain blaze flips over. The smoke has only just come back again because obviously we get the gusts. Smoke goes away, doesn't come back until the next advancing fire phase of mine. So that's like almost a whole player turn away.
Feels quite nice that I've got the they've sort of dealt with the gun-ish,
Yep.
nearly. Still doesn't feel desperately like I'm winning this.
Okay. Well, let's see what Tom says. And
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
okay, all right.
Here we are at the end of turn 2, and Martin's luck is holding true. The drifting smoke from the Su-85 would have been nice if it had covered the AA gun, but Martin rolled up some gusts, and all that went away. I'm still not sure why he didn't fire smoke at the AA gun from the Su-85, though. The gust would have knocked it down to +2 strength in the advancing fire phase, but at least he would have helped his trucks get out of the way. As it was, Dave's AA gun couldn't hit the broadside of a barn anyway, so it didn't matter. Still, there's not a lot of Russians left on the board. I count 21 infantry VP left and 10 armor VP left, and remember, Martin needs 23 over the river to win. I'm not reaching for the 2-ohm yet, but this ain't looking good.
All right, Martin. So into turn 3.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Well, it's still quite challenging, I think. I mean, I've made some progress. I moved forward. Very difficult to get my guys into decent stone buildings, which you've got the luxury of.
Yep.
Looks like I might be about to kind of get into one next turn.
Yep.
But building like decent fire lanes, fire groups and stuff, trying to actually sort of break your guys is quite difficult. But you're definitely retreating.
Yep.
You got your 9-1 leader kind of headed off into the open there. If I can get a good advancing fire shot, I'm not sure I can, but if I can, that's quite handy.
Yep. Yep.
Guess the tank chased him off, I guess, a little bit. Yeah. So what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, so you took out the gun, the gun crew there, so at the expense of a little bit of time back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's all to play for. Let's hear what Tom says.
End of turn 3, and why did Dave advance his 9-1 out into the street? They're just sitting ducks for the advancing fire phase next turn, where the 8-1 and some of these bully boys get into K10 and hit him with a down 1 shot. The time to get out of there was in the movement phase of this turn. Don't advance into the street. That's just asking for trouble. That is a nice stack that Martin's got, a platoon of 628s with the 8-1. Let's see if he can do something good with it.
Okay, Martin, so that was into turn 4. It's all a bit close, isn't it?
Yeah, I still think it's quite difficult to see me winning it, but it is certainly closer. It's certainly, you've had a couple of breaks, haven't you, now, and it's your force is looking a bit more, I don't know, kind of like weak, really.
Yes, so the big thing was me pulling back to J7 last turn, the 9-1 and the leader, the squad with the machine gun, and then assault moving into K7. You're getting a nice snapshot off. Yeah.
That made a big difference. That's the whole light machine gun down, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. And that was a 4 flat. You rolled a 3 or 4 or something, and then that was everything broke.
They weren't going to come back. You've still got dummy out there.
Yep.
I don't know if that's M8 or F9. I've got a feeling that if I was good at maths, I could have worked that out by now.
Yep.
And we had an interesting sort of thing over in sort of H8, haven't we? Where I was kind of trying to trap that squad, and it pinned actually, didn't it? With you moved into that building, it pinned. The leader didn't. He's moved into close combats, and they're quite vulnerable. That tank's quite vulnerable.
Yep.
And I made a mistake with my vehicles as well, which means I've been getting a few extra shots than I was allowed. Is it the SU? Is it an SU-85?
Yeah.
Yeah. It has I've been firing high explosive, and it only has high explosive on a 7. So I'm pretty sure we depleted. Well, it's definitely been depleted. So I think I might have got a few free.
That's fair, but I mean, it was both. We both missed it, so it's no.
Yeah. It is a shame though, because I think it's.
I don't think it did a lot of damage, to be honest.
No, I don't think it did damage, but it did get. I think it was the pressure that made you retreat that unit, which is now broken with a light machine gun. So I think it has had a bit of an impact on the game.
Yeah.
But there we go. That's getting it all wrong is part of it, isn't it?
So we'll hear what Tom has to say.
End of turn 4, and Martin again gets way too aggressive with his armor, snuggling both of those tanks up close to I-9, where someone is gonna get it with a Panzerfaust, I know. And then he fails to nail the 9-1 with the advancing fire shot when it was still out in the open in J7. So I'm reaching for the 2-ohmometer to end this game, but then Dave passes on the Panzerfaust shot, and Martin scores on the snapshot when the 9-1 tries to get into cover, and then Dave doesn't kill any tanks in the advancing fire phase or the close combat phase, and I'm not doing anything with the 2-ohmometer. It's madness out there.
Okay, Martin. So that was the end of turn 5 for the Germans there.
And I've resigned.
You have resigned. So
Yeah.
I've never had a melee where I've rejected combat twice on the trot.
Yes.
And it paid off here.
Paid off brilliantly.
These guys kept concealment, didn't attack, prevented it from being a 7 to casualty reduce me to needing 5s.
Yeah.
And you rolled a 7 both combats, didn't you?
Yes.
So you couldn't knock me out.
It also blocks the hex, doesn't it, for movement, for me to try to moving units off on that bridge on the right-hand side. You can't go through that hex, can they? So you're limiting limiting my sort of like route that I can take.
Right.
I mean, you've got a fire lane, haven't you, from J7?
Yep.
Which I've got to cross. You've got the medium machine gun, and in any case, I think even if you add up the units that physically could run off, even if you weren't blocking the way with a wall of infantry, they wouldn't be able to get across because they need to be on the other side of the bridge. It's not enough to get to the bridge, and they need to be able to advance off the bridge.
Right.
So very, very well played. And I think it was a very cool move with the keeping concealment in the melee, because I needed to win that, and I needed to win it in your turn at the. I needed to win it in my turn, so I could fire upstairs, or I could fire at the other unit that you had. Albeit, actually, you could have moved it away. As you did, moved it into O10.
Right.
I'm waffling now. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I first looked at the order of battles, I actually thought that the Russians looked quite strong in this, because obviously there's not a lot that the Germans have got to stop. The anti-aircraft gun is almost useless against the tanks, certainly from the sides and the front.
Yeah.
It didn't do a lot. It did a little bit. It broke one of your guys that kind of never rallied back here, and
yes,
the sniper just kind of kept him.
I know the guy that broke did rally.
Oh, okay.
He broke in a separate incident. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I didn't do a lot against the trucks, for example, with the guns. Originally, I put my AA gun up in N1, thinking that you would try and swing around there.
Yeah.
But I was a bit nervous about you just kind of trompsing through the grain and stumbling on the gun, or just thinking, well, I'll see what I can catch.
Yeah.
As you come through the road. It's let's see what Tom says, and then we'll catch up again.
Very interesting to see what Tom says.
Okay.
Oh, hey guys, I'm just making tank tread noises on YouTube. Thanks a lot. Talk to you next time.
So there's Tom's final thoughts. The way we're interlacing this right now, we don't know what Tom's going to say, so we'll hear it almost when you guys do. Now, last thing we want to do. I guess one thing I want to bring up is if you'd have played this differently, or if you've played this scenario. This scenario has actually got quite a lot of play. I know, Martin, you picked this one. This has actually had 46 play-ins on Raw. Ever so slightly favours the Russians, but nothing in it really. So I mean, it's as good as even, really, from my perspective. It did seem tough on the Russians, though, didn't it?
Yeah, I think there's lots of flaws with those vehicles that they've got. That's the.
Yep.
When I first saw them, I thought, brilliant, these are going to be great. They've got no machine guns.
Yeah.
They got no turrets.
Yep.
They're all kinds of weaknesses. Shortage of high explosive. Obviously, I didn't tweet that early enough. Those guns are very flawed. Those vehicles.
Right.
I really enjoyed it, and it's actually real classic ASL. It's like you're defending a pretty fixed position. Perhaps falling back very, very slowly.
Yep.
And me doing the work, kind of like working my way through, trying to whittle you down a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Oh, very enjoyable scenario.
I agree. I liked it actually. I thought that it was quite nice that you get to use as a Germans, you get a medium machine gun that isn't immediately under fire, at least for me. And I know you couldn't afford to be taking shots there. Your 628s are great. I guess you didn't use a lot of the assault engineers smoke, and that's one thing.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's true.
you could have done more of, but.
That's true. Yeah.
But it was interesting ASL, wasn't it? It was, move, advance, close combat, advancing fire, pull back, tanks kind of flanking and everything. So nice scenario.
Very nice indeed. Makes me want to play some awesome from Onslaught to Orsha.
Okay, so we have to thank Bounding Fire for getting us a copy of both Onslaught to Orsha 2 and the Corregidor.
Corregidor. Is it
the Rock.
Corregidor or something?
Which we haven't even taken a look at yet because we've got so much stuff to play, but we are going to definitely take a look at it. Martin, you're going to give your thoughts on Onslaught to Orsha 2 soon.
Yeah, I can do that next time if you like.
Sounds brilliant. Yeah, it's a very, very big product, so it's not something we can just kind of whiz through.
No, off the cuff. No, I agree.
We had a quick look at the difference between the scenario and the one that appeared in the first version. The only thing we found different was the word Russian in the victory conditions to clarify that it was good order Russian units, and I assume not maybe German prisoners or anything like that.
Prisoners, yeah, that's right. And that's quite a good little balance thing that tips it back. In favour of the Germans, I suppose. It allows some quite sleazy play, I suppose, if you're allowed to use prisoners, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know whether prisoners are good order though. So because it was saying good order units.
Yes. But it's absolutely clear. Saying it's Russian, I think it's absolutely clear.
Yeah, absolutely right. But yeah, really nice scenario, and nice medium-sized scenario. Really good, probably good little tournament scenario as well for people to. So I'd recommend it. Feel free to play. Now we're going to do a Patreon giveaway as well. So we're going to give a pack of the March Madness pack of a Patreon's choice. So if you win this, you can let me know what pack, and we will get the
Madness.
The March Madness packs. Yeah. So this is the players pack.
So, would you like me to identify a random number?
Yes, please. Now we have 41 Patreons, so guys, thank you very much. So every one of you is in this draw. I've got you all listed in order of your first name from 1 to 41. So Martin, give us the number from 1 to 41, please.
Right, so I am now in random.org, and we have minimum number 1, maximum number 41. I'm going to hit generate. Yeah.
Okay.
We have got a 29.
29 is Paul Sinnott. So Paul, we're going to be in touch, and we will give you a shout and let you know what you're able to win. Thanks very much again for everybody's patronage. We really appreciate it. Good luck, guys. In the next one, we'll do some more of these coming up. Martin, we're going to be possibly playing now. We've got the the next round of the Illuminating Rounds tournament to catch up with.
Yeah.
So we're playing the what's it called, the Brickworks.
That's right.
From Kansas City, guys. So you've paired me up against Jerry, your vanquisher.
Well, he beat me. That's right. So I thought it gives you a chance to prove that you really are the dominant player out of the two of us. Big Jerry.
I've got to get back. I've got to win back your honour, haven't I? That's the thing. So
I'm going to be getting Jerry in training for this. I'm going to be getting in touch with him.
Do you know what, Jerry doesn't need any training. You were brilliant. You had a great description of how he's this baby-faced assassin. He just he talks a very sweet, soft game, and he knows his stuff. And I had a quick chat to him. He's a very, very nice guy. So looking forward to playing him next week. But we will try and get a game in as well very shortly.
Yes.
So until then, Martin, thanks for the game. Tom, thank you for your contributions. Toby, thank you for your contributions. If people have a question for Toby, fire it over, please. Give us a shout. Let us know.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Other than that, thanks very much for everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye. Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, it's Vicky's great with the old cooking there. Usually knocks something up for us, and sometimes you've done it as well. Yeah, but hopefully Vicky.
Yeah.
Nikki.